Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Empowered Self podcast with me, Krista Long. And wherever you find you today, whether you're out on a walk, driving, or taking a quiet moment to yourself, I invite you to just gently arrive exactly as you are. Today's conversation is a really special one as we are exploring identity, belonging, confidence, and what it truly means to feel seen, especially when your experience of the world may be different from those around you. I'm joined today by Laura Brodie, who has stepped out of a 25-year teaching career into advocacy work for the albinism community. Through her work with Adventures in Albinism, Laura supports individuals, families, and educators, while also bringing mindfulness and positive psychology into her work. Laura, you are very welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. What a lovely introduction. Thank you. Thank you so much. Very happy to be here.
And Laura, for listeners meeting you for the first time, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the journey that led you to create Adventures in Albinism?
I'm originally from New York and now I live in Spain, Madrid. I've been here for about 25 years. All of my adult life, really, I've worked in education, first teaching English as a second language. And then I transitioned into primary education, where I later on became trained as a mindfulness guide or specialist, however you'd like to say. And now I've stepped out of the formal classroom and into doing advocacy work and also working as an operations and outreach coordinator, some kind of multidisciplinary, which I think a lot of people these days are wearing a lot of different hats and doing different things. The second part of your question was, how did I get started into Adventures in Albinism? Yes, so that all started about a year ago. It's a funny story. As I was meditating under a tree. That sounds like a bit, but I really was. But under a tree in front of a fountain while my daughter was at a crochet class, and as things often do, like I don't know, like ideas just become clear when you're meditating because you're giving your brain a chance to just relax and rest. And lots of times, if you've got an idea kind of ping ponging around your head, like you figure out what to do. But in this case, it wasn't like that. I wasn't really like struggling with what should I do about this and what it just kind of came. It just came naturally. And then once it came, I do have to say, like once it came, then it was like boom, this is it. This is what I need to be doing. So yeah, that's kind of how it all started.
And that's a great journey so far already. And I'd love to go a little deeper into your early experience of what it was like growing up with albinism yourself and low vision. And how has that shaped who you are today? Was there a particular moment or turning point where you realized you wanted to use your experience to support others?
Right. So I think there are, two sides to every coin. There is definitely, there are definitely the challenging sides where having a visible difference and having low vision. I'm legally blind, so that affects a lot of things, and people can see that you're different. So I think growing up was challenging, but I also think on the other side, on the other hand, um, a lot of the experiences that I've had, just like anybody else, really did um I don't know, really shaped who I am in a good way as well. So so yeah, I would definitely say that there were growing up and even into adulthood there are challenges as well. Growing up it's mainly because kids are, they can be kind of mean sometimes, especially when they don't understand something. Something's different. We don't necessarily teach as much as we should, like that being different is not a problem. It's not something to be scared of. And so, yeah, not teaching enough tolerance. I think growing up was challenging in a lot of ways because people don't understand what they're looking at. And when they don't understand, they make comments and there's a lot of bullying or exclusion. And I think the exclusion is probably worse than the bullying for me personally, because when you're excluded, like at least when you're being bullied, like people are paying attention to you. It's negative attention, but at least it's attention. But when you're excluded, there's something very like very primal that happens to you when you're excluded from the pack, as it were. Because when we're excluded, back in the day when we lived in caves and all of those kind of things, when you were excluded from the pack, that meant you perished. That was not safe. So I think I spent a lot of time feeling like visible but invisible and excluded, and so you feel excluded and you're not like a part of what's going on, but you're also very visible because people are constantly saying things about the way you look and using a magnifying glass to read, and so you're like not a part of things, but you're also very much under the microscope, as it were. But then on the other side, because I don't want to, it's not all doom and gloom. It's really not. I think on the other side of that, growing up and as a young adult and as an adult, I think I'm really very aware of when I think or see other people being excluded. So I'm hyper aware of making sure that everyone feels welcome and feels part of a group, whether that's at school or work or social engagements. And so I think, yeah, you know, it's kind of challenging sides, but then it's other sides. And of course, resilience is a huge part of being a person with low vision and visible differences. You have to be resilient. You have to just keep going and have a positive attitude as much as you can and approach things with an open mind and an open heart. So yeah, both challenges and good things as well. And there was a second part to that question.
E- So, was there a particular moment or turning point where you realized you wanted to use your experience to support others?
I started using mindfulness and positive psychology and strategies in school. So I guess supporting children in that way. Um, yeah, and just making sure that kids always felt a part of a group and never felt excluded. But in terms of like saying, "Oh, wow, I really want to bring this to the albinism community," that goes back to that like meditating under a tree in front of a fountain story. Yeah, that was really the first time I was like, wow. It was like a light bulb moment, one of those things that you just think, yes, this is what I should be doing.
And it's amazing. Great ideas come to us in unexpected ways.
They certainly do. They certainly do.
And Laura, as you reflect on that time, what do you feel your younger self really needed back then?
Ay, what did my younger self need? That's a good question. I think really what all people want, no matter how old you are, a child, teenager, adult, we want safety, satisfaction, and connection. Those are the three things that everybody wants, no matter where you are, no matter what color of skin, no matter what, situation you're in, socioeconomic, any kind of, physical challenges, whatever they are, we all want safety, satisfaction, and connection. And safety is number one. If you don't feel safe, the other two don't even matter. Satisfaction and connection don't even come into play. So I think growing up, there was a lot of times where I didn't feel safe, because there was, also physical bullying. People like throwing things at me and yeah, weird things. I won't go into all the details, but I think a lot of times I didn't feel safe. So I think feeling safe would have been number one. Then satisfaction and connection are really important. When you don't feel satisfied in what you're doing, you always feel like there's something missing or there's something lacking. And then connection is, I mean, we're social creatures, humans. We want to feel connected to people. And when you find that connection challenging and difficult, yeah. So I think safety, satisfaction, and connection would have been the three things I would have needed as a kid and as an adult. Still need all of those.
And I think this is such an important conversation to have. Laura, for listeners who may not be familiar, how would you explain albinism in simple terms, and what are some of the biggest, I suppose, misconceptions people still have about albinism?
Mhm. Yeah. So albinism is a genetic condition. It's hereditary. So both of you, it's a recessive gene. So neither of my parents have albinism, like physical traits of albinism, but they both had the recessive gene. So that gene gets passed on down to your DNA. And for example, my sister doesn't have albinism. She's probably a carrier, but I don't think she's ever been tested. So, yeah, both parents have to have it. Doesn't necessarily mean that all children of the same parents will have it. I think there's about a 25% chance with each pregnancy, with each birth. And then it affects production of melanin and then the pigmentation, which gives your skin color, so your hair color, your skin color, your eye color. So people with albinism don't produce that. And then also, um, I'd like to say that there are a lot of different types of albinism as well. There are two main types, but then there are like subtypes of that. So there's ocutaneous albinism, which is just in your eyes. And then the other albinism is where it affects your hair, skin, and eyes. And also, people with albinism have low vision. Some people, like myself, I'm legally blind, but then within being legally blind and then into blindness, there's also a range. So some people might have lower vision, some people might have more vision. You have astigmatism, so your eyes tend to move a bit. Um, Light sensitivity because you don't have any protection, like the color in your skin protects your skin and in your eyes as well. So I have people with albinism usually have a lot of light sensitivity. They have to be very careful with the sun, which is a little bit crazy because I live in Spain and it's very sunny and very hot here. So lots of skin protection, lots of sunglasses. Yeah, I think I covered everything there more or less.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm just kind of wondering there, what are some of the everyday realities for a person with albinism that others may not fully understand in how they live with it and come to terms with it?
hmm So I think the top things that come to mind are the low vision, light sensitivity, and skin protection. So just to give you an example, when I go into a room, like if I go, I don't know, to a meeting somewhere, or I go to somebody's house, like the first thing that I will be aware of is how much light is in the room. And sometimes you can control that and sometimes you can't. So, for example, light for me is better if it's behind me because if I have light in front of my face, it's the amount of light that goes into my eyes is like, when you take someone takes a picture of you with a flash and for a
Yes.
moment you're just like you kind of like can't see for a second. That's kind of like what's happening a lot when you walk into a room and you're adjusting to the light. That light coming into your eyes is a lot more for me than it is for someone who doesn't have albinism. So I might have to position myself in a way as much as possible. It's not always possible. Sometimes you just have to deal with it. But sitting with the light behind me. So light is a big issue. Seeing is definitely a big issue. For example, I was on the metro the other day and like it just where the metro stop, I'm always on the metro, but just where the signs are, there happens to be these like fluorescent beam lights that are on the ceiling and they shine exactly where it says the stop that you're at. So it's really hard. Kind of have to like do one of these things or take a picture of the metro stop really quick, look at it, zoom out, and go, okay, I'm in the right place. So yeah, it's all day, every day, adjusting to where you are and navigating situations that I think maybe most people don't even doesn't even come into their minds most of the time.
And Laura, you're doing such meaningful work in this whole space. And can you tell us more about what you do through Adventures in Albinism, and who do you mainly support through your work, and what challenges do families often, I suppose, face when navigating a diagnosis or trying to understand albinism?
Okay, that's 3 questions. You're gonna have to help me remember
Okay, so
remember all of them.
so the first one, I suppose, just start with, can you tell us a bit more about what you do through the Adventures in
Okay.
Albinism?
Yeah, so Adventures in Albinism, is a group on Facebook that I have that mainly supports parents. As children, of course, are not really on Facebook. So it supports parents of children with albinism and also people with albinism or PWAs. And teachers as well, although I do have a separate group that is dedicated more for teachers called the Teachers Compass. And basically, we have monthly themes. So it might be gratitude, it might be impermanence, it might be compassion and self compassion. And through those monthly themes, I have a framework I'm working with that's called the Mind Compass. So each week is a letter. So M for mindfulness, I for identity, N for navigation, and D for dialogue. And so we sort of go through each letter each month and discuss things related to the topics. I do like a mini podcast. I have a weekly challenge. I have a post that goes out on the weekend that says like, what's one good thing that's happened to you this week? Because I do like the focus to be on recognizing that there are challenges, but also offering solutions and ways to handle those challenges, because I do see a lot of the conversation around albinism is rightfully geared towards skin protection and all of the physical side of what it means to be a person with albinism. But I'm hoping to promote more of discussing the emotional side, like what's going on for people with albinism emotionally, how is their experience unique, and then what can we do to help people? That I think is the important part. I don't think it's enough to just say, like, this is what's happening. I think it's very important to be offering solutions and ways for people to navigate what's happening on the emotional well being side. So, yeah, helping parents help themselves and help their children. And then I think the second part of that was, what are parents dealing with, or what are their, could you just repeat the second one?
Yeah. So, what challenges, I suppose, do families face when navigating a diagnosis or trying to understand albinism?
Yeah. So I think the first thing is a bit of fear from not knowing what's going to happen. So that's where education comes in. Really, really important that parents educate, and of course they do. You know, as a parent, that's the first thing you would be doing is educating yourself. So I think the first thing that a lot of parents feel is fear, of course, because they just don't know what their child's life is going to be like. And so, of course, you're just going to go down the rabbit hole of assuming the worst when it's not necessarily true. And then just the going through, especially when kids start school, you're navigating school and supporting your child and making sure that they're getting what they need in terms of what they need for visually and dealing with all the social aspect of it. So yeah, I think that for parents, that is the most difficult thing in the beginning. And then hopefully, I think parents do educate themselves and then they have support at school and they see that it's not as scary as you might think it is. I think it's very important that parents have a very good relationship with their children's teachers and staff at school, and that they're giving them as much information as they can so that staff can support children in school.
And I think for me as well, from the education aspect as an educator, I love to bring this into the education space as well. But from your own experience, what do you wish teachers in schools understood more deeply about inclusion for children with low vision?
I think this is an important question because teachers, like in teacher training, there is no training about having children with albinism. And even if you've got a SENCO, special education person, they might not even be trained on it. Or you have a TVI, in the States are called TVI, like teachers of visually impaired. And they might come in once a week and help a child with low vision. So I think that teachers should, of course, educate themselves about what albinism is, and that's part of what I'm trying to do in the Teacher's Compass, which is like give teachers a space where they can come together under one roof, as it were, and get information from each other and get training from myself and have access to me as a person who's worked in education and a person with albinism. So I think teachers really need to be aware of the physical side, like accommodations that they need to make visually, how to do that in a way that's not calling out the student, how to support them in using the tools that they use, whether that be a magnifying glass, a cane, a screen reader. There's so much new that it wasn't around when I was going to school. There's so much technology around now that makes it so much easier for our children in schools to see things. And then the of course for me the most important side is the emotional side and supporting children in the emotional side, making sure that they're feeling included, looking for ways for children with albinism to kind of shine, and be showing their strengths, I think is really, really important. So not making kids like stand out so much. It's very hard. It's a tricky balance, which is why I think it's important for teachers to have that space. So yeah, to sum up, like really being aware of what each individual child's needs are, both emotionally and physically.
And when inclusion is done well, Laura, what does that actually look like in a classroom day to day?
Yeah, so this is an important question. What inclusion looks like is making sure that a child, any child, but since we're specifically talking about children with albinism, has access to everything that every other child has access to, and feels safe and supported in a way that they can ask for help when they need it. Sometimes, if we can see before they have to ask, because sometimes some children won't ask. They'll just muddle through and struggle through it, and have eye strain and, not want to ask for help. So I think it's very important for teachers to be able to see things before they happen. And that happens from really understanding and connecting with the child. I think inclusion has a lot to do with connection between the adults in the room and the child, so that the child can just with a look or a signal or, communicate what their needs are without having to say, hey, I can't see, I need to move. Or, hey, this morning the light wasn't bothering me, but now the sun, the light in the room has changed. I need to move. So it's really knowing what the child needs and making sure the child has access to everything everyone else does, and that they feel included, that they're not having to ask to be a part of play, for example, in the patio, in the playground when they're outside. As an adult outside in the patio, like really making sure that the child is not. I spent a lot of time by myself as a kid in the patio because you're just kind of wandering around and people aren't including you. So I think it's very important for teachers to be aware of that and make it so that it's not like, hey, this child needs to come in and play. I think most teachers and people that are in playgrounds, they are aware of how to do it in a way that's not so obvious. I would hope.
And there's such a strong thread here around belonging, Laura. How important is belonging and confidence for children who may feel visibly different?
Well, I think from what I'm saying, I mean, it's fundamental. It's fundamental. I think of what I said before about the three things that everyone needs: is safety, satisfaction, and connection. We all want to feel part of a group. We all want to feel like when I go out into the patio or when I go to the lunchroom, I'm going to have someone to sit with. They're basic things. That's a real thing for when a person with low vision walks into a room, especially a big, bright room where there's lots of activity and there's lots of people moving around. It is a jungle. It's a jungle, and you don't know where to go and who to sit with. And like, there might be lighting happening. And so you're walking through something and you can't see. Maybe you've got a friend, or maybe you're starting to make friends and you don't see them. A lot of times people think that you're being rude because you don't say hello when you see them, but it's not that you're being rude. It's just that you just don't see them. And so you might walk past them. So belonging is fundamental. If you feel like you don't belong in the social situation that you're in, especially for children, but and teens and adults, I think anyone, wants to feel like they belong. If you feel like you don't belong, then we're going back to that sort of that feeling of fear. I'm not welcome here. I'm not protected in the social situation that I'm in. And once you're operating from a place of fear and not belonging, then nothing else is happening for you because you're just dealing with that in your nervous system, and your mind can freeze, and your body, you're going into fight and flight or freeze, any of those. And then so nothing else is happening for you. You're not able to be open to social situations. You're not able to be open to learning because you just don't have that basic need of belonging met. And once that need is met, and it can be met, and there are easy ways to make sure that children are feeling safe and feel like they're belonging, then children can flourish just like anyone else, just like anyone else. But yeah, that basic need of belonging needs to be met.
And Laura, what helped you personally develop confidence and self-acceptance?
Long road, a long road. I think it's weird because I think I've always come across as being a really self-confident person. Like, no one would ever say, I think people who've known me my entire life, that she's not a self-confident person. But there's a big difference, I think, between what you're showing outside and what's going on inside. So self-acceptance for me was a long, long road. And it is a practice that is ongoing. It's not something like that you can work on and then all of a sudden go, great, okay, I accept myself. Next, moving on. I think it's something that requires a lot of maintenance practice. So for me, I think like my journey with self acceptance really began when I started practicing mindfulness and discovered self compassion, because before that, I had no idea even what it was. I didn't even know it was a thing that you could work on accepting yourself. I just thought that this is just the way. Well, I'll be honest with you, before I really like understood mindfulness and started practicing it and studying and reading and like, you know, I think I knew that something wasn't right. I think I knew that I was struggling, but I really didn't know why or how or what to do about it. And then finding mindfulness and discovering all the ways and things that you can do to help yourself was like, whoa, it was like mind blowing. And this is one of the reasons I want to bring it into the community, because I just think if I can help people from a young age, give them like a set of tools that they can use to go through life with. And if you can just alleviate 5% of the struggle and the suffering, then wow, I've really, really made a difference. So I think self-compassion has been a huge factor in my journey with self-acceptance. Yeah, huge. And not taking things personally. I mean, there's much more to it, but if I had to pick one, it would definitely be loving kindness practice and self-compassion practice. Those would probably be the two main ones.
And what would you say to a young person who might be struggling with their own identity or confidence right now?
Practice those two things. Practice self-compassion as much as you can. Definitely, your relationship with your thoughts, I think, is really important, because our inner dialogue is so important to like how we navigate through life. So really retraining what you're saying to yourself. And we do that through self-compassion practice, retraining like the thoughts that are going on in your head, realizing like, I think a lot of, especially when you have visible differences and you have a disability, and you really are just trying to protect yourself all the time. And that's what our minds are designed to do, disability or not. Our minds are designed to protect ourselves. But when we're overdoing it and when we're overthinking and trying to, I think a lot of times criticize ourselves. And so you think, well, if I criticize myself and I think poorly of myself, then when someone else does it, it won't affect me as much as, I won't be caught out. Let's say it that way. I won't be caught out because I'm already doing it. Well, that's not helpful at all in any way, shape, or form. It's just not. And so when we have a better relationship with our inner dialogue and what we're thinking, and we know what's helpful and what's not helpful, and we can learn to treat ourselves with more kindness, it's just game changer, game changer. So definitely practicing self-compassion and awareness of inner dialogue.
And you talked quite a bit about mindfulness and
Mhm.
how it really stands out in your work, the role of mindfulness. So how did mindfulness become part of your journey, or when did it become part of your journey? And can you tell us a bit more about how mindfulness can support children or adults living with albinism, particularly in moments of overwhelm?
So it started for me, really, I was looking for something for my daughter. She's 13 now. But anyway, she was really struggling a while back. I remember I went into her room one night. I was going to get her ready for bed, and she just shouted at me, like, "Mommy, no, you know." And that moment for me was like, things had not been going well. There was a lot of tension, and she was struggling. And so, of course, we were all struggling in the house. And I said, "Look, we've got to do something. We have got to, help her, help herself, because at her age she was little, and she just didn't know what she was doing, but I knew as a mother that she was struggling. And so I started looking up things online and how I can help her. We went to a therapist first, and the therapist was amazing, really amazing. She helped us kind of redirect her quote unquote bad behavior, so she wasn't having the tantrums and doing the things in it. But for me, I was like, okay, like we've put out some of the flames, but I really want to know where the fire is coming from. Like why is this happening for her? So we were kind of tricking her behavior, but I knew that, like, she was still struggling. So I started looking things up, and I found I found a course called The Foundations of Wellbeing by Rick Hansen. And that was the beginning of the beginning for me. And I soon realized that I was the one that needed mindfulness and meditation, more than even, well, I don't want to say more than, but as much as she did, because I was trying to regulate her, but I wasn't able to regulate myself. So once I started working on myself, and I did simultaneously with her, um, we still practice gratitude practices together, and we still meditate together. And this is years and years and years later. So that was kind of the start of it for me, looking for something for her. Then I realized I needed it. And then I haven't turned back, basically. And how that's helpful for people with albinism, gosh, so many ways. I mean, it's where do I begin? Befriending yourself, I think, is the number one thing that you can do to help yourself live a life with more joy and more ease. Self acceptance, like you asked me about before, like really accepting who you are. We all have strengths and limitations, every single one of us, and just learning to accept your limitations and accept your life the way it is. And on the flip side of that, so we're talking about awareness, we're talking about acceptance, talking about self compassion. And then on the other side of that, on the more positive psychology side, like really knowing who you are and who your strengths are. We all have, like they say in the virtues and action framework in positive psychology, that there are 24 character strengths. Knowing your character strengths and building on those is an enormously powerful tool to strengthen who you are and know how to go through life, like doing all the fantastic things that you know how to do. So I started off with mindfulness, but in more recently, I've become really interested in the coupling of mindfulness and positive psychology. So mindfulness helps us, like, deal with a lot of the things that are going on, like I said before, about awareness, self-compassion, all kinds of practices with gratitude. But then the positive psychology side really helps us understand our strengths and live in a way where we're seeing the good in us and seeing the potential that we have. So I don't know if that's a very long answer, but I think it's both. It's both things. Both mindfulness and the positive psychology are really great ways to support people in general, but especially people with albinism and low vision.
And I think it's a great combination having the mindfulness and the positive psychology together, because you're getting more, as you say, the mindfulness is great for awareness, practicing simple tools like gratitude and things like that, whereas positive psychology, you build into your strengths and you build it all together.
Exactly. I think once I discovered positive psychology, I could never go back to doing mindfulness. I don't know if you're going to say it like that, but practicing mindfulness without the positive psychology side, it just would seem like something was really missing from it all.
Yeah, and Laura, that brings us to if you could guide our listeners through a short practice, just to kind of get a sense of the mindfulness and the positive psychology, something gentle and grounding that they can carry with them into their week. Will that be okay with you?
Of course. Yeah, 100%. I thought that I would like to do a compassionate body scan. So, yeah, I chose this particular practice because I think, do I have time to explain it, or I don't know how much time we have, because the practice will be about 10 minutes. Should we just jump in, or do you want me to explain a little bit why
Yeah,
I chose it?
go ahead. You can explain why we have time.
Okay. Okay. So I think the body scan for me it's such a basic tool that anyone can use anytime. I like that it doesn't require anything. You can do it anywhere at any time. And basically what a body scan is it's taking um bringing your attention to different parts of the body. Okay? So it's very simple. I wanted to explain the difference between thinking about and bringing your attention to, or your awareness to. So if I say, um, I don't know, your thumb, for example, we'll start with your thumb. If I say, think about your thumb, you might think about the shape of your thumb, the size of it. Maybe you're like, oh, I need a manicure, my nails are growing out, or something like that. So that's thinking about something. Okay. And that requires a lot of mental activity and mental events and maybe judgment thinking. And we don't want to get into that. No. So if I say bring your awareness to your thumb, and my eyes automatically closed when I did that. That's so funny. So you are feeling what's going on inside of your thumb. So we're not thinking about, we're bringing awareness to different areas of the body and feeling what's happening right now inside that part of your body. So there might be tingling, there might be no sensation, there might be a change in temperature, there might be pulsating. So there could be all kinds of different feelings that are happening inside each part of your body. So why would I want to do a body scan? Well, one of the main benefits of a body scan is that it takes you out of your mind and brings you into your body. So one of the things that we're doing is we live like from our neck above, we're not aware of what's going on in our bodies. And our bodies are really antennas. They're so important in telling us how we're feeling, what state of mind we're in, or what state we're in, what's happening for us, stress signals, relax. All of these things are happening in the body. And if we're not aware of what's going on inside our body, we're just never going to be able to regulate emotionally and enjoy things. And so it's really important to get out of the head and go into the body. What we're not doing when we're in the body and doing a body scan is we're not here thinking, ruminating, that mental time travel where you're like thinking about the past and regretting or worrying about the future. You are anchoring yourself in your body in the present moment. And in this present moment, you are okay. So those are some of the main reasons why I think body scans are so powerful. They train us to be aware of what's going on in our body. They get us out of our mind. So you will feel rested after doing a body scan. It's often one of those feelings that people have afterwards. You're like, wow, I feel so rested. Why? Because you haven't been like, going and all this thinking that's going on. So you tend to feel very rested after doing a body scan. And I've added the component of compassionate body scan, because a regular body scan, you're bringing attention to different parts of the body, but a compassionate body scan, you are adding that element of compassion and gratitude for what all the body does for us every day, things that we don't even realize and pay attention to. And I think that is all I wanted to say a little bit about what's happening during a body scan. Last thing was a body scan. This one will be about 10 minutes. If that is that all right? About 10
Yeah,
minutes?
that's perfect. Yeah.
Okay. But you can do a body scan you can do in 1 minute. You could be waiting for the bus or waiting in the queue to buy something. And instead of taking out your phone, which is something we are all guilty of doing as soon as we have like you know, a dead 1 minute or 5 minutes, the first kind of habit we have is taking out our phone. So my invitation would be, instead of taking out your phone immediately, I'm not saying never take out your phone because that would just be people would just be too stressed. Instead of taking out your phone straight away, do a 1 minute body scan. Check in with your body first. And the more you practice, the easier it gets. And the more you will notice what's going on for you. Are you feeling stress? Is there an area of your body that you could release tension in? Are you feeling good? Are you feeling relaxed? Good. Notice that as well. So, yeah, I would say this one is going to be about 10 minutes, but you can actually do like a 1 minute scan or a 5 minute scan or half an hour. There are so many options to do it. So this one will be about 10 minutes, I think. So, yes, let's get into a comfortable position for you, where your back is straight, but you're not rigid, a place where you're feeling comfortable. You could be sitting on a chair, you could be sitting on a cushion, you could be lying down, and you also could be walking. Although for a body scan, seated or lying down is probably more appropriate. Just coming into the space where you are, noticing the body as a whole, noticing the breath, just bringing your awareness to the breath for the moment. There's no need to change, just being aware of the breath. And if you'd like, you can take 3 deeper breaths, relaxing the muscles around the eyes. You can lower your gaze or you can close your eyes if that feels comfortable for you. But if not, you can keep them open as well. Whatever feels comfortable for you right now. Releasing tension in the jaw if there is any, dropping the shoulders, even just 1%, and just letting the breath come back to its natural rhythm. Now bringing your attention to your body as a whole, noticing where it's being supported by the seat or the floor or the sofa, whatever's supporting your body. Just saying quietly in your head, this is my body here, right now. And there's nothing to fix, nothing to change, nothing to improve. Just arriving, noticing any sensations in the body as a whole, pressure, contact, or perhaps very little at all. Whatever you're feeling is okay. Bringing your attention to your feet, your toes, soles of the feet. Here you might notice some tingling, change in temperature, or very little sensation at all. Anything is fine. You might say to your feet, thank you for carrying me. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for taking me to all the places I go. Gently moving your attention up to your calves, knees, and your thighs, and the legs as a whole, noticing any sensations that you might have. Now bringing your awareness to your hip, your seat, and pelvis, now to your abdomen, releasing any tension if there is here. Some of us keep a lot of tension in the abdomen. Just breathing into this area, letting go, releasing. Releasing. You might notice the abdomen moving with the inhale and the exhale, noticing the rise. Now bringing your attention to your chest, the heart center, This is an area that holds a lot of feeling. Just see if you can feel the heart beating. If it feels right for you, you can put a hand on your heart. It's a sense of presence and grounding, bringing a sense of gratitude for this part of your body, all of the work it does without you having to think about it. Now moving awareness to your shoulders, an area of tension for a lot of us, just releasing the shoulders, knowing that here in this moment you're safe. See if you can soften this area, just allowing the shoulders to drop. Flow down your hand, noticing any change in temperature, any tingling, perhaps nothing at all. See if you can soften just a little, softening the hands that help us do so much. You might acknowledge your hands for everything they do. These are my hands. They help me throughout my day. Now, bringing your attention up the arms to the shoulders and now to your neck area and moving up to the lips, noticing your lower lip, upper lip, bringing your attention to the teeth, the tongue. If it feels genuine for you, you might bring a gentle smile to your face. Let your nervous system know that you're relaxed, you're safe. Attention to your cheek, your nose, perhaps bringing attention back to the breath and noticing the change in temperature as you inhale the cool air and exhale the warmer air. Now bringing your attention to your eye, relaxing the muscles around the eyes if need be. Bringing attention to your mind, your brain. All see if you can bring a sense of gratitude for how much your brain does for you every day, protecting you, caring for you. Now bringing attention to the body as a whole, your feet, your legs, your upper body, your arm. This is my body. This is my vehicle. This is enough. You might silently say to yourself, thank you, body, for all you do for me every day. Bringing our attention back to the breath, breathing in. I know I am breathing in. Breathing out. I know I am breathing out. And as we bring this practice to a close, take 3 more deep breaths, letting out a sigh if that feels right for you. And the invitation is if you can take this feeling of gratitude and feeling of self-compassion and appreciation for yourself and your body, you can take that feeling into the rest of your day. Just knowing that you can come back to this practice anytime, anywhere. Begin to introduce some slight movements into your hands, into your feet. Open your eyes if they were closed. Stretching. Welcome back.
Thank you, Laura. That was beautiful. It was very calming and it was very peaceful. And it's something that is really nice to start the week with.
I'm so glad you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it myself as well.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I'm sure listeners will enjoy it more as they get to play it back time and time again. They can always come back to your practice should they need to as well. So, Laura, as we begin to come to a close, what does empowerment mean to you personally?
Empowerment to me means self-awareness. I think that's really, really important. Knowing who you are, knowing what your values are, and living in line with your values is so, so important. And agency, knowing that you have a choice in what you choose to do, how you choose to live, where you choose to spend your time, who you choose to spend your time with. And knowing that you're not alone, ever, ever, ever. You're never alone. You can always be your own best friend, find solace in yourself, and also find solace and company in others, whether that be pets, spiritual being, other people, a tree. I know that sounds a bit hippie, but I do like a nice tree. I do find company and and solace in a tree. So yeah, I would say that that's what empowerment means to me.
And that's lovely, Laura. Thank you for sharing that. And if listeners take one message from today's conversation, what would you hope it is?
Knowing that you're never alone is an important thing to feel, because I think a lot of times people do feel like they're alone and navigating things on their own. So knowing that you're never alone and that there's always ways to find and come back to the peace that is inside you.
Laura, thank you so much for sharing your story, your work, and your wisdom with us today. It has been such a meaningful and important conversation. And to everyone listening, if something in today's episode resonated with you or helped you see things from a new perspective, I invite you to share this episode with someone who might find benefit from it. Conversations like this help create more awareness, more understanding, and, as Laura says, more inclusive spaces. And perhaps take one small idea from today as part of your own wellness toolbox this week. And just before we finish, Laura has very kindly guided us through a beautiful mindfulness practice during this episode. And you can tune into that practice again in this Sunday Reset Rituals episode, where we revisit it as a gentle space to pause, reset, and carry it with you into the next week. Also, if you'd like to connect with Laura or learn more about her work through Adventures in Albinism, I leave all of her details in the show notes below. And as always, take gentle care of yourself. And thank you for joining me and for listening to Laura's story. And I'll speak to you again real soon on a next episode.